it wasn't fun. Like, you didn't get all this emotional damage and baggage from having fun. Like,
I'm a bitch, I'm a boss, I'm a bitch and a boss, I'm a shine like gloss.
remember the story.
What the fuck is up?
I'm Tori.
And I'm Caitlin.
And this is the Bossed Up Bible.
We are back, and I have fucking energy today because I am not being tormented by this guy that is obsessed with me that sat in the room last time we recorded, and that is why I was mute. So, we're back. My voice is back. I got
Tea is hot.
I got some opinions today.
To be completely honest, we are like 20 minutes into our session already because we were very deep into a conversation and we had to intro it just so that like the conversation could get recorded.
And it could get funnier because I had some things to say.
Caitlin's just rolling out with them today. Today we're focusing on healing trauma and how it improves other areas of your life. And trauma is definitely one of those things that unless you can get that shit figured out, you're just going to bleed your trauma all over everyone else.
So, funny story, I was going to say, was guys I talk to have the funniest thing. Like, every time I do something not even that ridiculous, like, people always have to blame it on, whatever. But we were making a joke about how this guy that we know was in a commune, right? And we made a joke saying, oh, he should come out here and talk about his trauma. And knowing guys and how guys act around me, he'd probably be like, the commune was fine. My real trauma was when Caitlin rejected me. Because literally...
You find the creatures, man.
Dude, okay, well, like, this guy I was talking to literally had a fucking stroke. And then I accidentally, like, dropped a phone on his face.
Wait, like a real stroke?
A real stroke. Whoa. A real stroke. And I dropped a phone on his face by accident. And he was mad and was like, my head hurts more now from you dropping the phone on my face than when I had a stroke. And I was like, yo, I really attract some goons.
Oh.
He's like, real trauma goes to therapy. Caitlin dropped a phone on my face on purpose. And
well,
she's worse than a stroke.
Worse than a stroke. Did you go to the hospital for that? No.
I mean, did he go to the hospital for you?
For the stroke he did, but not
I mean, I would hope
over
so.
The phone, bro.
Well, then
the phone thing was held over my head for months. I was like, dude, I just had bad aim. Like, I went to drop it and your face was in the way.
I don't know. I always tell you that you attract what you are. So
a mess, apparently.
The creature life, you got to get out of it.
Okay, I will say
not
that
attract other creatures.
Recently, I've been meeting some more normal characters.
Well, it's because you realized last episode that the inside is better. Did you not?
The inside is
the creatures are on the outside, bro.
I mean, there's also some creature. I have to say this because, anyways. So the other day we went to. The creatures, there's inside, but they're also outside because literally,
they're everywhere.
Of course, OnlyFans people, if you're listening to this, my guy that is obsessed with me, what's good? But this guy from OnlyFans is obsessed with me, and he's convinced that I am the only girl for him, and it's hilarious. He actually probably is listening to this because he knows a lot of things about me. And he was like, I love how you're...
That's kind of scary.
I know. Super fans, though, so that is what a podcast creates. And anyways, so it was super funny because this guy sends me a lot of selfies of himself. And he lives a little bit outside LA, so he lives in Orange County. And I remember last time I was in LA, he was like, oh, but you're so close. Like, why can't you come over? And I was like, why? Dude, like, this is not a dating app. This is not Tinder. There is no fucking way in hell I would be going to hang out with you. But anyways, so we went to the Unruly Agency party on Friday, and there was they were selling VIP tables. So that meant that there were tables for the people, right? And I'm pretty sure my number one fan was there. And because he looked just like his selfies. And he'd be out there staring at me. And I was like, yo, the creatures, they're inside. They are also outside.
To be fair, the Unruly party is not the inside. That is definitely
that was fully
very distinctly the outside.
The outside. Okay, but I was saying, but
that's like if he was like standing in your lobby or your local Starbucks, I'd be like, well, that's your inside.
Okay,
that's your safe space.
Okay, the stalker is also inside, so I mean,
yes, but I've watched you be hella chatty with the stalkers, Caitlin. I've watched you definitely entertain them enough
not the one
the stalking begins.
That's true. That's true.
'Cause she's a chatty ass bitch. Like, she's the type of person where, like, if you start talking to her, she'll continue the conversation, and then she'll take the conversation, and you're just like,
because I ride it though sometimes.
Literally,
it's
but
funny.
they're like, wow, this girl really wants to talk to me, and then
and then all of a sudden
then you have fucking Joe from You.
Dude, that's my biggest fear.
It should be.
It's Joe from You.
It should be, honestly, You.
Oh my God, knowing me, dude, like the shit that people say to me is unreal.
Well,
like,
no, honestly,
the Uber driver
that's
that tried
what
to kidnap
like,
me. Oh my God, the other day a guy dressed up as Marshmallow for Halloween and
tried to convince you.
He tried to convince me he was Marshmallow. And I like fucking hate Marshmallow, so I was like, I genuinely don't care if you're Marshmallow. And the guy took it to the fucking extreme of being like, my set is at 110. Like, someone put me on the stage. And I was like, bro, if you were really Marshmallow, you would just walk on the goddamn stage. And I was like, also, like, Autograph is playing. And I like Autograph, but, like, Marshmallow's definitely bigger than Autograph. So, motherfucker, the headliner, they're not going to be like, let the guy roam. And if he comes, he comes. So... yeah, no, people really be out here. And that pissed me off the most is because, you know, that guy clearly has some trauma.
Well, that's, I'm like thinking, I'm hearing all these stories you're telling, and I'm thinking about like the trauma that probably
so actually it
started all of this for
funny.
all these people, like, because literally, not to bring it back to like Netflix show You, like that's what a lot of this most recent season was about, is like why Joe is a killer and like what made him kill people. And it literally stems from like he kills spoiler alert if you watch You, skip like 15 seconds ahead, he kills his mom's abusive boyfriend when he's like 7, and she's like, that's all right, Joey, like you did what had to be done, like
so he gets really
you have
protective.
to, like you were protecting me, like she kind of like makes it okay for him at like a very young age of murder, literally. So then like he's like, if you kill for love and if you kill to defend someone and protect someone, it's okay. And that's like what gets set up in his psyche.
Dude, it's so interesting because I've realized that like my psychic gifts are like very attuned lately. Like where like someone can tell me one thing about themselves and I'll know your whole life story and like where your trauma comes from and all this stuff. So like the Marshmallow kid, the one thing I knew about him was that he had a girlfriend that they were dating, and then she started doing OnlyFans, and then she changed, and then they broke up. And
now he's at an unruly
And now
party.
you're at a fucking... And then he's like, I hate OnlyFans. OnlyFans is so stupid.
Why
and
are you at an unruly party?
Well, one, you're unfortunately with one of the most followed OnlyFans people ever. I am literally the biggest advocate for it. So I am not your girl.
I'm the wrong target audience right now.
2, also, you fucking finessed your way into this party full of OnlyFans girls that apparently you hate.
Don't like.
And like... it's like, to me, it's like, bro, like, what is going on in your head?
Well, I always find it interesting, like, when people say things like, oh, like, she changed up, or like, he changed up, or like, someone got money and started acting differently, or like, someone got into a relationship and changed up on me. And it's like, to be completely honest, depending on the situation, people outgrow each other, and most likely either you outgrew them or they outgrew you. And it's not usually someone changing up. It's usually someone like...
So I keep having this conversation with people a lot, like, because I know... well, actually, because I've been having a lot of people ask me questions. Like, some of my college friends were in Miami last week, and I didn't make a point to see them for longer than, like, a few hours, you know? And basically, they were asking me questions like, so you just picked up and moved out of California and stopped talking to all of us. And why?
Like a little bit.
And I literally was like, I mean, yes, you are correct. And then but he was like, and you had just have this a whole other life, like with all these other friends, like even in LA you have other friends. And I was like, well, yes. Personally, I was like, I mean, like, I listen to you guys complain about each other. I've been listening to you guys complain about each other since I was 19? You're 27? You still dislike each other and you still hang out? I was like, I don't believe in longevity of things, like of relationships, especially in that sense where it's like you like already don't like each other, you're gonna continue to just not like each other. So like I always used to use the example of like you and Dika, where I'd be like, I met Tori and Dika, like out of nowhere.
Literally.
And I was like, and I trust them more than I trust someone I've known for my whole life, you know, because I feel like it's not about necessarily yes, maintain relationships that, you know, add value to both your lives, you know, people that lift you up, inspire you, motivate you, make you laugh, you know, like people you enjoy being around. But if you don't like the person, you don't like how they make you feel, you don't like the things they do, then, and unless it's an extreme circumstance where like they really just like need someone.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is like, that's why I've gotten like, once I realized what trauma was and that it was something that affects your life so much, I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to heal all this shit, because there are such thing as trauma bonds. Like, you can bond with someone over having the same trauma, and that is a very unhealthy cycle to be in.
Dude.
You, like, if you are an unhealed person, you're attracting other unhealed people who then you're just going to keep hurting each other. So when people say, like, don't be in a relationship because you need to, like, work on you and focus on you, and people are like, yeah, I'm focusing on me, but, like, every, like, night you're out looking for a guy, like, that's not focusing on you. I'm talking about, like, really focusing on you.
That literally baffles me, too, because, okay, one, I just started realizing trauma bonds are a thing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize in college the reason I always hung out with the same group of people, and I was like, why do I hang out with these people? And I realized it was because, like, my ex fucked all of us over. You know, like, it was all his friends. He screwed every single one of them over. He screwed me over. He screwed his old roommate over. And everybody really liked me because I was, like, I got it the worst. But then the amount of and I had to drop out of school, actually, because of this trauma bond vibe, because everybody constantly, like, once they found out what happened to me, everybody that hated him clung to me. And so all of a sudden it was like, oh, like, I feel so bad for you. Can we talk about, like, how,
think about it. Like, there's positive and negative ways to trauma bond. You have things like support groups for, like, divorced people and, like, widowers and shit like that, where it's like no one else can understand your pain that you're going through unless it's actually someone that has gone through that pain. Like losing a child. Like, I can sit here and talk to someone that's lost a child till I'm blue in the face about how I understand some pain that they've been through, but at the end of the day,
you've never lost
I've never lost a child. So, like, there's trauma bonding that's good as long as it's, like, in a controlled setting and that you're working towards, like, essentially releasing that trauma and being able to move forward with your life. And then there's trauma bonding in the way of, like, you know, someone else is feeling as miserable as you are, and misery loves company, and you want to feel like you're not as sad because everyone else around you is happy, and then you put a bunch of sad people around you so that you don't feel as sad because you're not surrounded by happy people. But then you realize, oh, there's nothing bringing me up now. This is just all a bunch of depressed people, and we're all depressed talking about how we're depressed. And what you talk about is what you manifest, and what your circle is who you are.
Be that. Yeah.
Literally.
So yesterday when I was taking notes on what we were going to talk about, I had to pull up the definition of trauma because I wanted to define trauma for people that, like, don't necessarily know what it is, because I think that a lot of people think trauma
like
is,
you see some, like,
or it's like
it's trauma,
or
like,
trauma is like, some people
like
think it
ER
has
shit.
to be like this big fucking thing, you know what I mean? Like someone died, or like
the
some
ER,
shit,
like the trauma room. Like,
yeah, it's
like
so trauma is basically just an emotional response to a terrible event, an accident, rape, natural disaster, or it could be, you know, something a little more chill.
Yeah.
But immediately after an event, shock or denial. Our typical longer-term reactions include unpredictable emotions, flashbacks, strained relationships, and even physical symptoms like headaches or nausea. So for me, I've been on a very intense spiritual journey for the past 6 months. And basically, a part of my spiritual journey was to understand my own trauma and where it came from, because I think before I even started this spiritual healing thing, like with a actual healer, I knew I had things wrong with me. I just could never pinpoint the reason why I am the way I am, you know, and I could have just said, like, that person hurt my feelings, but, like, a lot of times trauma comes from repeated patterns of even, like, just simple words that people told you. Like, if someone calls you ugly, you know, you could be somewhat traumatized by this idea.
Well, it's like,
that
it's the type of thing where, like, I remember very distinctly, like, being a really skinny kid, and then I hit puberty and I gained a lot of weight really quickly, and I remember very, like, I remember exactly the dress I was wearing, what my hair looked like everything. I came downstairs, and my cousin that I, like, super looked up to was like, what's up, gut, and, like, pointed at my stomach. And, bro, when I tell you, to this day, if someone talks about, looks at, or, like, references my stomach, that trauma is still there from, like, my coolest cousin basically calling me fat.
That's actually, because I have trauma around the same thing, too, where, like, my mom used to call me fat all the time.
But then like, you have my sister who was super, super skinny, who her trauma's around that. So, like, if someone calls me skinny, I'm like, ooh, yes, like, yeah. But, like, if someone is like, oh, like, you're looking womanly, she's like, ooh, like, thank you, like, because she was so thin.
Yeah, dude, it's so funny, too, because I actually was also traumatized when I was younger because I had huge boobs when I was younger.
Oh, that's the most traumatizing event. Go to middle school with titties.
And then it's like all of a sudden everybody's like, did you get a boob job? And I was like, I'm 15. Just because my dad is a doctor does not mean I got a fucking boob job. And actually, he would have hated that. And then literally, like, my aunt she was very skinny. And I think she was just jealous that, like, me and my sister had tits. And then she would say things like, when is Caitlin getting a boob reduction? And literally, I used to sit there like, why would I get a boob reduction? But, like, it was to a point where I was so self-conscious because my boobs were so big that I would just, like, wear baggy clothes and all this stuff.
Well, yeah, that's what you do. Like,
and
bro, the stories I could tell you, in literally 7th grade, I remember it, I felt like the booby fairy came overnight and I was flat-chested, and then suddenly I had, like, a C cup, double D cup. And if you want to know what that was like in middle school, show, like, a 13, 14-year-old boy, like, a girl with titties and see what their reaction is, and then times that by 40, because that was like, what happened to me? And now I'm in PE dribbling, like, being still like a normal kid, but I have tits, and now, like, getting that attention and, like, confused by it.
Literally.
So they pulled my parents into the office, and they were like, they wanted me to wear jeans and an oversized sweatshirt every day to school. My parents were like, crazy. Is this the general dress code for everyone? And they were like, well, no, Tori's developing quicker, and she's distracting the students.
Dude.
My parents were like, so we're supposed to make our kid feel badly about her body and feel like low self-esteem because you guys don't want to have a discussion about accepting people's body types and puberty. That's why I love the fucking show Big Mouth. Like,
dude, no.
I identify with that shit so much.
Literally, and it's crazy in those situations because obviously, like, those chicks even were probably judging you too. Mm-hmm. And they were probably, like, the girls that are getting fake titties now.
Bro, mind you, the teacher that, like, was the one that, like, pulled me out of class and had my parents come in was a teacher whose nickname was Nippleopolis because her room was ice cold and she wouldn't wear a bra and her nipples would be poking through every shirt. Like, that's the teacher that wanted me to wear a fucking sweatshirt. Are you kidding me?
Literally, and it cracks me up now.
A child. I was fucking 14.
My aunt that used to be like, oh, her boobs are too big, she needs a boob reduction. Now she's running around telling people I'm too skinny.
Dude.
And I'm like,
that's why I say,
make sense, people.
Literally fuck everyone, because anyone that is, like, coming at you in a negative way is usually coming from some unhealed trauma, because when you are a healed person, you only approach situations and conflicts and everything with love. Like, that is the whole point of healing yourself. So anything that anyone ever fires at you, I always, like, it's something I say all the time, and it's really kind of, like, stupid, but it's true, is it has nothing to do with me, and I'm not going to relate it to me unless you say you have an actual issue with me. So if you're just, like, snappy at me one day, I'm not about to take that shit personally unless you tell me you have an issue with me. So I tell people all the time, like, if you have a genuine issue with me, you need to tell me, because otherwise I'm healed enough to not let your trauma ruin my day if you don't have a real problem with me. Like, if you're just being short with me or you pop off on me for no reason and I, like, about other shit, like, I'm not going to think that it's about me. I'm not going to relate that shit to me, because I've done enough healing of my own and enough self-reflection, enough self-awareness to be able to know that I've done that. I've had a shitty ass day and been super snappy with someone and not meant it at all. And, like, just coming from a place of I got off the phone with someone and I was arguing and, like, someone asked me a question that just I didn't feel like answering, and I was just a bitch, like, genuinely. And I can never hold that against anyone else for firing that shit at me one day too, because that's just karma. That's how we resolve all this shit. Like, there's this day I've been a bitch to someone, there's a day someone's gonna be a bitch to me. At the end of the day, like, heal your trauma as much as you can so you can bleed less of your trauma onto other people.
And that being said, in a way, like, I know a lot of people are going to ask us how we healed our trauma. So
I can go into that too.
Yeah. So I think that basically, I mean, healing your trauma a lot of times means that you need to accept the feelings that you feel.
Well, first of all, you have to get comfortable with, like, it's going to be extremely uncomfortable
Very
and painful.
uncomfortable.
Like, it's
Extremely
literally probably
uncomfortable.
the most painful thing you might ever go through, because think about it, like, there's a reason why it was traumatic. It wasn't like, it wasn't fun. Like, you didn't get all this emotional damage and baggage from having fun. Like,
and also I think that healing trauma is extremely important because, I mean, from a quantum physics level, if anybody is into Joe Dispenza, basically, if we wanted to say everything is happening at the same time, but also if you think about it, you're just reliving your trauma every time you fucking think about it or talk about it and bring it back to life. So I realized for me, like, in order to cope with a lot of my trauma, I was doing like 5-hour healing sessions for probably like at least like twice a week for probably a month or two, because I had to talk through everything that made me feel a certain way. Like, that person said this to me, which made me feel like this, which is now why I have a problem when that is what's going on.
it's crazy how you can, like, unravel that, though. I did this this like focus workshop called Landmark, where literally for 3 days straight, like, you sit there for 12 hours and you fucking reflect on every traumatic thing that's happened, and, like, at the end of it, it, like, you realize, based on, like, there's like 140 people sitting in there all talking about, like, the trauma that they've been through, and you're like, whoa, like, it's kind of like the most amazing feeling of not feeling alone, because a lot of times we kind of get into our own heads and, like, walk around thinking, like, I'm the only person going through this, I'm the only person that it's this hard for, because a lot of people don't show, like, when they're down.
That's seriously so true, because I feel like recently I've been so, like, beating myself up over a bunch of shit because I'm like, oh, I'm just not, like, where I want to be. And then all of a sudden I realize, like, somebody else is explaining, like, their life, and, like, I'm not gonna say they're doing worse than me, but, like, they're, you know what I mean, like, they're totally, like, not where I am, you know?
That's why I say everything's relative. Like, there's always going to be someone more rich than you, there's always going to be someone poorer than you, there's always going to be someone skinnier, fatter, taller, shorter. Like,
because, like, it was crazy to me to see that, like, this person was so stoked on this, to me, that felt like, oh my God. And, like, I even called my mom after, being like, oh my God, like, that was eye-opening to me to see that, like, somebody was so stoked on something that, like,
that you were just, like, glazing over,
that I literally didn't think twice about.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's when they say, like, be careful, like, as you're walking through all the, what do they say? What's the fucking quote where it's like, make sure you pay attention to every door that opens for you, that you were praying to open for you once it does, or whatever it is. Like, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think that realistically, in order to, like, heal trauma, okay, actually, here's another thing. When I went into my spiritual healing journey, I genuinely was nervous to heal my trauma because I thought trauma was what made me funny. I genuinely was like, I'm going to be like a walking wall after this, you know?
Yeah.
And I said that to my healer the other day. I was like, you know, it's crazy. Like, I genuinely was scared to talk through my issues. Not because of my issues being my issues, but I was scared
that you wouldn't,
to
like, have a personality and be funny anymore.
who I was on the other end.
Well, that's, who are you without your trauma is a very it's a very scary thing to, like, think about. But then when you realize, like, you're you before, like, remember when you first started going to school and you thought everything was a shit and you had, like, your favorite backpack and no one could have told you that
Dude,
backpack wasn't, like, the best.
I miss that shit.
That's when you heal your trauma. You go back to your child self, when you just literally know who the fuck you are and what you want, and you don't give a fuck what anyone thinks about it.
That's why I love it when I see people just so innocently happy about, like, stuff that's so not that, like, still, well, like, a good, like, song comes on and they're like,
when I tell you, I can get happy over the littlest things. My boyfriend, literally, I had him cracking up the other day.
T-Cut is a perfect example of somebody that is just living his child life.
Dude. I did it to him. I found, we always, like, go back and forth about who's going to roll the blunt. So I had rolled and there was like a good, like probably like a fourth of a blunt left of weed that I had forgotten that I rolled and it was left over. And I literally walked in the room and I was like, baby, like it's already broken down weed. And he was like, you really get excited over the smallest things. I was like, yeah, honestly, that's a fourth less work I have to do right now. I'm hype about that.
Dude,
like,
I'll never forget when D-Cut asked if he could jump on the bed.
oh
and
my God.
I literally was like, this is the energy we need.
Literally.
Like, because I was
forces me to like be young and be fun and get out of my head and get out of work mode. And it's really like a beautiful thing.
Fuck, we all have a lot of shit going on. And this guy, all he wants to do is jump on the goddamn bed. And we were like, jump on the bed, bro.
Literally,
If that's what makes you happy.
Please
jump on the bed. You know? And it's so funny because I think about it too, where like a lot of people that have a lot of trauma, they create situations in their head where they think everybody else is just as twisted as they are.
Well, what you do is when you have unhealed trauma, you keep putting yourself in the same situation over and over again to try to rewrite the situation in order to heal your trauma. At the end of the day, shit happened to you in your life. It's going to happen. Shit's going to continue to happen. I'm going to tell you right now, like there's going to be more trauma. This isn't the end. It's coming. There's more. But what healing your trauma is a lot of times when something traumatic happens to us, we shut down and we like kind of like store it away in our body or in our head and we don't want to think about it and we don't want to feel it. So we just kind of go through the motions until we don't really think about it anymore. What healing your trauma is bringing that box out that you hid, looking at it, being like, this traumatized me. This is why I do these other things in my life, but I don't have to do that anymore because I'm recognizing that's what it is. I'm having self-awareness and I'm going to step away from like reacting based on the actions that I thought were things to protect myself that I decided when I was 12 years old, you know, like you can't act like a 12-year-old girl for the rest of your life.
I have such a good story about something that traumatized me like for life, and it's something so dumb, but it made me into this literal I hate men. Men deserve no rights.
Well, plus, we're not even getting into past life trauma yet.
Oh, shit.
We're just still in this life
my
trauma.
My past life trauma destroys my life, dude. But anyways, literally, okay, so when I was in high school, I hooked up with this kid that was in college, right? And at the time, this kid was cool.
That's super statutory rape.
Yes. Anyways.
You're going to cut that out for OFTV. They won't like that one.
Okay, so... So I hooked up with this guy when I was in high school, and I remember afterward, I was sitting in his bed, and I go on Twitter, and he tweeted, I fucking hate when you fuck a bitch and she won't get out of your bed. And ever since then, I have been the most disrespectful person to guys because that was mean. You know,
you're like, I was in the bed. That was me.
So since then,
I was that bitch.
Now when guys get out of my bed and walk out in disgrace, I literally am like, you're lucky I didn't just tweet. What the fuck is this dude lingering in my bed for? So
but
like,
see, that's shit you have to heal because what if it's a nice guy that just wants to like make you breakfast?
I've had guys
try to get the fuck out of my house before I tweet about you.
Dude, I've had guys try to make me breakfast. And literally like and it just made me laugh cuz like in my brain I've been like, so what the fuck are you doing here? Because this dude, I was like, collectively men want you the fuck out of their bed. So like after that, it was funny when I went to college, I made this rule. It was called the 6 a.m. rule. And like it was like me and all my friends were on the 6 a.m. rule. My sister and all her friends were on the 6 a.m. rule. We had a group chat. And the 6 a.m. rule was if you fuck a dude, you run out by 6 a.m. And if you're not out by 6 a.m., you're fucked. And we'd be like, what the fuck were you doing till 8 a.m., dude? Like, 6 a.m. is the rule.
Okay, so let me tell you the difference in our rules. You had the 6 a.m. rule. I had the 24-hour rule where it was like, if you're going to argue or you're going to like fuck someone, wait 24 hours to see if you really want to do that. Because I'm telling you, like 90% of the time, I would be like, oh my God, like I'm so into this guy, blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, let me just wait 24 hours. Like we're kissing, we're making out. Like, let me just wait 24 hours. 24 hours would come around and be like, I'm so happy I did not fuck him because this, like, I don't
weird.
Literally, what the chemicals in your body make you want to fuck people. Like, literally, it's pheromones, it's hormones. Like, if you actually take space and step away from someone sometimes, it's not the same thing.
Oh,
and
dude,
you would not do that shit.
I think about this all the time because I'm like,
don't even add ecstasy and shit into that and alcohol.
Dude, that's funny because drugs don't hit me like that. But anyways.
Oh no, certain ones.
I was like, but it's so funny because I always think that because like I'm the worst. Like guys literally do not like me because I will hook up with you and then I will literally forget your name. And
I could never do that.
Oh, dude, it's bad. And it's because I'm like so. I don't know what it is about me. I think it's.
Well, you had someone tweet about you like
true.
that. That's actually the most traumatic thing that's happened to me.
Rude,
like
dude.
that is like there was a guy that I was talking to, and mind you, like I'm 15 and he's 18. I have not even kissed anyone yet, and he's having sex. So like very much not on the same page.
Yeah.
So we're like all going to this modeling competition that like my parents were a part of and shit, and everyone's friends, and there was like one night they were staying at the hotel, and then like everyone's texting me like, oh my god, like I won't use real names, Mike hooked up with Sarah, and I was like so hurt. Like it was probably the first person that I had like really true deep feelings for. No idea like where this, it's like the first time, so you don't know where that shit comes from, and usually you don't realize it's happening until like you get heard about it and you're like, oh shit, like I actually like this is actual pain, like I'm actually hurt about this.
Ow.
And I remember like the next day I was like, I need to talk to you, and like I had this whole serious conversation with him
bro.
at 15 years old about like the same shit, and like to this day it's actually crazy. I just literally unpacked that shit live right now. To
She's
this
like,
day,
I'm
like
traumatized.
my thing was like, listen, I know that like we're not on the same page with like that type of stuff, but can you not hook up with people that we mutually know? That like everyone's talking about that shit. Like you live in a whole different state than not state, but borough than me. He lived in Brooklyn. Like go there and hook up with some bitches that everyone that I know isn't texting me.
I used to say that to my ex too.
With relationships, my like two things are like honesty and don't embarrass me. And now that I think about it, like don't embarrass me comes from that, because I felt so just embarrassed that like I liked someone so much. And
is my favorite. I used to say the same thing.
Don't embarrass me.
I used to say that to my ex all the time. I'd be like, dude, I know what you're doing. I do. And I'm like, but don't embarrass me. I was like, because I don't really give a fuck what you do. But literally, just don't make it my friends and don't embarrass me. So like go fucking somewhere else and don't do it in front of my friends either. You know, I was like, because that's fucking weird. And so I always tell people not to embarrass me. And yeah, no, I realized also what's so interesting is I realized how I've developed, like, you know how you start to suppress emotions or feelings or whatever. Like
that's what shrooms literally broke that shit off for me. I was so suppressed before I started doing shrooms.
Yeah, so I mean, me too, and also my healing shit. But basically, I have a tendency to say I don't care. I literally, and the thing is, I'm convinced I don't care a lot about things. A lot of things I actually don't care about though.
No, but you have to.
But there are some things I genuinely do care about, and I realize that the feeling of not caring comes from, I think back to my old relationships, and I used to care so much,
like too much,
that it literally hurt to me because
when
it was
wasn't
like
reciprocated.
Because like my ex in high school, I did everything for this kid, and the thing is, it's like he was making my life so much harder. He was destroying my mental health. I like started having like panic attacks and all this stuff, but I felt so bad for him that I made sure that like I kept him around to like take care of him. And I was 14. You don't do that. It was like 14 to 16, and basically I remember when we ended things, like I could not do it anymore. And I remember the day we broke up, he's calling me in the car to like show me he's like making out with this other girl and all this stuff. And I literally was like, did I not just spend 2 years of my goddamn life taking care of you for that? And then to make it worse, then all of a sudden he started hanging out with all my best friends and their families, because his problem was that he wanted family. And like,
so you tried to be that.
So I tried to be his family, and then all of a sudden he takes all my friends and all their families, which were all my family friends. So he's like, bro, like not only did you fuck me up, but you also took
you're everywhere.
All my friends, their families, and like and I was like, and I got the shit end of the stick of this because and the thing is, they used to call me, people knew that I was different after this kid. It was like I'm not saying his name because if anyone's listening, just know who he is.
Name.
Whatever the goddamn
Chris.
dumb fucking bitch.
I was just gonna say Chris.
Pre-Chris, post-Chris. Everyone, I was a completely different person. And it was crazy because actually when I had to, like, after that, he, like, ruined me so much that, like, because also because he literally, oh my God, one time he was talking to this girl while we were dating. And he was like, oh, it's my cousin's girlfriend's best friend. And I was like, and like that makes everything better, right?
Yeah,
and he's like, yeah, no, like it's fine, fine, we're friends, we're friends. I go on vacation.
Red flag.
Every time I go on vacation, he'd throw a party, and he would say, oh, it's because I want to hang out with you, like, but
when
like
you're back and I see
when we're back by ourselves and let me seclude you in a room, and then one day he had a party that I couldn't go to because I had dance, and the girl that he is friends with was at the party and they were making out the whole time in front of everybody and all my best friends were there. And I literally was like, is this a serious thing?
Yeah.
So after that, I was also traumatized, and that was the beginning of me being like, if guys are going to
shit on me,
I'm going to literally... I was like, I am never treating any dude with respect ever again. I was like, if a guy likes me, you will like me, and I will not like you, and that's how it will be. So I turned into a monster. Literally, I would talk to two guys at the same time. They'd be best friends. I wanted them to know. I wanted them to fight over it.
See, I just got hurt over and over again thinking that, like, if I, like, am good enough intentioned and I don't do anything bad and I just, like, am the best person ever, then that's what I'll attract and that's what I will that's like the whole situation. But what you don't realize is when you are like that, you attract narcissistic motherfuckers.
You also attract people that, like, can take advantage.
Well, bro, like, this is literally, like, making me think, like, a lot of people, like, really discount emotional trauma. Like, they'll think about physical trauma, like, you can get out of school because you broke your foot, but, like, you can't get out of school because, like, a guy actually smashed your heart, or, like, whatever, like, some emotional trauma that you're going through. Well, like, you can, but, like, what I'm saying
smashed.
is there's physical trauma and there's emotional trauma. And a lot of times, especially with, like, relationships, people discount the emotional trauma. Like, if you have someone that's like, oh yeah, my mom used to yell at me and was, like, extreme, like, put me down all the time, you're not gonna, like, it's not the same narrative as someone whose mom used to hit them, like, you know. So it's God. Like, physical trauma and mental trauma are never weighted the same. But to me, honestly, emotional trauma and mental trauma is even worse because, like, a bruise heals.
True.
Shit that, like, people put in your head and they tell you, and like the story that, like, your parents raised you with, like, if your parents told you from the time you were born you're fucking dumb fuck and you're not going to do anything, like, how is that ever going to be not the narrative that's in your subconscious?
And it's crazy too because I feel like I had to explain this to my parents that because, like, after my parents know, like, what kind of situation I'm in, and, like, they know that I'm very stressed out all the time. And my mom was like, and I had to explain to her, because I was trying to explain to her the idea of chasing your dreams. Mm-hmm. I was like, when you're chasing your dreams, not everything works out the way you want it to.
No, it really doesn't.
And I was like, and honestly, I told her, I was like, listen, Mom, the words that I heard when I was little was make a lot of money. So I knew I was going to disappoint you in the aspect that I was not a lawyer or a doctor, but I had to make a lot of money. And basically, it's crazy that it's like that didn't traumatize me, but, like, it
shaped the way that you viewed, like, the way that you should be seen in the world and what you should do to be able to be successful and have your parents' respect.
Exactly. So then it was crazy because I had to explain to my mom that also the way I care about things and the way I care about people are a lot different than most because of the fact that the way I was raised was differently. So I get a lot of backlash now about how I have an inability to to care about things or like people or whatever. And
well, you've also related it back to like the fact that you had 2 doctor parents who like kind of as a doctor, if you're an empath, like I don't know how you would ever do that because the amount of like death and trauma that they see. Like
I think that part of it was I had a problem because my nanny like was the one that was taking care of me all the time, so I didn't have like, I mean, like she nurtured me and stuff, but like at the end of the day you want your mom, you know,
and that's literally like psychologically, so, if you're not with your mom, that's literally empathy you're missing.
So that's the thing, is I miss a lot of emotions because I was never in a position where like someone was like holding me or taking care of me like in circumstances that like any other kid would have been like, this is okay, or you're okay or whatever. And so it's crazy because like now like when I call my mom and I cry, she's like, she freaks out, like she's like, I don't know what to do, and I'm like, Mom, you don't need to do anything, just listen to me cry. I was like, because like that's what I need. I was like, that's what I wanted as a kid, that's what I need now. It's not that like, because then she'll be like, oh my God, I failed as a mother, blah blah blah. I was like, no,
it's not about you.
It's not. I was like, it's not about you.
I'm telling you what I need.
And I was like,
right
and
now.
Also I don't think you failed me as a mother. I was like, at the end of the day, you raised a kid that is literally like relentless at her dreams. You know, I don't take no like for an answer, or I don't give up, or as many L's as I take, somehow I'm still fucking here, you know? And so I was like, yeah, like at the end of the day, there are different things that shape you. And sometimes in a way, like, yes, that could have been traumatizing to someone as a kid. Like, I mean, I think as a kid, I was low-key, I was traumatized by strangers, so I didn't talk. Like, I didn't talk until I was like 5.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was.
That's why you talk so much now. You got to make up for all the lost time.
I actually had a lot of judgment in my head, which was hilarious because like I would just judge people and like just not respond, and like it was like funny because like nobody knew. My parents didn't know I was a selective mute. My sister did because she had to speak for me, but no one else. And that's crazy that my parents raised me for 5 years and they had no idea. Because I talked to them. But like, you know what I mean? But besides that, like they weren't there, like you're outside of the house. Yeah, shoot, outside the house.
Outside.
In the outside, they didn't know that I didn't talk.
Until you were 5.
Until I went to school, I didn't talk really.
I have a calendar the whole first year of my life with every fucking shit I took.
That is wild.
Like literally, I see it and I laugh, and like I'm honestly the only one of my siblings with it because it's like once you have 2 kids, you're definitely not keeping up with that shit. But it's like. It's crazy how like helicopter parented my life was and how that shaped me in different ways where it's like I literally, by the time that I moved out, I was like, listen, like I love you guys so much and I'm 23 years old that like if you are a part of my everyday life anymore, I'm going to start resenting you because at some point you're supposed to move out of the house and like develop your own life. And I just realized at a certain point, like I was either doing things because my parents wanted me to do them or I was doing the opposite because I didn't want to do what they were telling me, but at the end of the day, I had no fucking idea what I wanted to do for myself, and that's just because
you were just like...
I was living as a child in my parents' house, regardless of the fact that I was 23. Like, there's shit that you learn when you move out and go to college that I just wasn't learning because I was still living at home, and as much as, like, I was still real-lifing it in other ways, and I had a job, and I was working, and I was doing all these things, still, like, there's just a certain mentality when you come home and it's your parents' home. Because I feel that still when I go back home, like, this isn't my place. I can't just be reckless. I don't want to ash just randomly anywhere. Like, you know, like.
That's actually funny, too, that you say that because actually I had to call my parents today and say, like, oh, well, I'll be home. Oh, this episode will be out by the time my friend, I'm surprising her at home, but whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, anyways, I was like, I had to tell my parents that I was coming home on Friday instead of Thursday. And that I had to leave probably by Monday because I have to start working with Zach on Monday. And it was like crazy. Like it, like to my parents and like especially my dad puts working over everything. So it wasn't even like an argument. It was like, oh, you need to focus? Got it. Like, you know what I mean? Or like I remember my dad told my sister not to tell my mom that she had a break for school. Because my mom would have been like, oh, come home, and my sister had to study. And so my dad was like, no, you don't tell your mom. Like, you stay there, you study. And it's like crazy because like that shaped me. And it's crazy because now even like that's not bad trauma that I am addicted to working.
But it's just like it shows you that where it's coming from. Sometimes that's my thing. Like a lot of times people work really, really hard at a dream that they don't realize is coming from something that is hitting a trauma point for them. Like, oh, you think your whole life you just wanted to date like the girl that was on the cover of Maxim. And you're not realizing it's because like the girl that you had a crush on in middle school shitted on your life and like said she was going to go on a date with you and made fun of you. And now like to heal that inner child little boy, you want to date the hottest girl. Like but if you want to date the hottest girl, it's because you want to date her. That's a different thing. But that's why I get on everyone to like figure out your trauma so you can figure out how you're making decisions and make sure that they're not coming from your trauma. They're coming from what you actually want to do, actually who you are and what you feel about shit.
So if you're trying to be productive about healing your trauma, I would say a first start to it is admitting to yourself that
you have it.
You have it. I was going to say that you're not perfect, but I was going to say that is not.
Nobody's perfect.
That's not a good thing to say to people. But admitting to yourself that you probably have trauma, if you're reacting to people in certain ways that, like, I'll say I get a lot of my stories are just people reacting hilariously to me. And because I'm, like, healed, I literally sit there and I'm like, wait, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I sit there, I'm like, wait, that's what you thought? You know? But admitting to yourself that you have trauma, obviously, like, you know, trauma doesn't heal itself overnight, but I think that realistically starting with situations like in what's going on in your life right now, like say you're in a relationship, something is bugging you, maybe start journaling about it, you know? Oh, maybe I can't trust my boyfriend because my ex cheated on me. However, this is not my ex. So I would like to treat this dude with respect and maybe realize, okay, maybe he's not cheating on me, you know? And I think that, like, it's important to start healing that type of trauma because I was actually saying this to my mom yesterday, how, like, I have friends that are, like, about to get engaged and shit like that. And they say things like, why is my boyfriend looking at that girl that he used to hook up with for a week 7 years ago? You're literally getting a ring.
To walk down the aisle.
Bro. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, and it's, to me, it's like, okay.
Unhealed trauma.
And it's sad because you're like, I get where it comes from, the pain. However, if you saw what was right in front of you, you would know that that is not what's happening, you know?
Well, what's shitty is like that type of empathy and that type of understanding has honestly gotten me into so many fucked up situations because I'm like the type of person that I see the good in everyone. And when I hear you talking that type of like crazy type of way, I automatically hear exactly where it's coming from in your trauma. Like, and I have so much understanding for that and so much empathy for that. But what I had to literally, as I grew up, realize is that like, just because you're empathetic and you can feel someone's trauma and understand what they're going through doesn't mean that you have to save everyone. And sometimes there are people who are happy in their trauma and they are comfortable in their discomfort, and at the end of the day those are the type of people that are going to use you for your light, and they're not interested in you helping them get out of their trauma. They're interested in taking what they can take from you and keeping it pushing on to the next person, because the trauma shit, bro, that shit is not easy to heal. And a lot of people don't want to look at that dark stuff. And a lot of people don't want to cry, and they don't want to get into their feels, and they don't want to talk about the shit that is painful to talk about. Especially with, you go through a lot of trauma being in a relationship. Like, let's just start there. First of all, any relationship you go through, you're about to heal from whatever wounds you had from any other relationship. Literally. The last relationship I was in before D-Cut, the reason why I broke up with this man, like one of the strongest reasons, was because I was like, this man is causing me so much trauma that I'm gonna have to fucking heal before anyone can like ever date me again. And the longer I stay with him, the more trauma is gonna keep getting built up that I'm gonna have to fucking undo, because I know I'm not marrying him. Like, this is not my life partner.
Dude.
But
oh my God,
the longer I stay in this situation, is the longer that
and then
someone
there's more
else
shit
like
that I'm gonna have to deal with.
I'm gonna have to unpack. I had to go to therapy for so fucking long for that shit because like
yeah, dude, it's crazy because I see a lot of my friends like they go from like boyfriend to boyfriend, and a lot of times and I always tell my friends, I'm like, dude, can you spend literally at least a week by yourself? And like I've had this conversation with my one friend a billion times, and now I just let her be. But like I always
gotta meet people where they are.
I always tell her, I'm like, listen, dude, like, and it's sad because I hear her even say now, like, she brings her trauma to her new boy, like, you know, and
her baggage.
And I sit there like, and she'll like, cause like she'll run into her ex in public, and then like she'll be crying, and then like her new guy's there, and she's like, he protected me, it was so cute, and I was like, dude,
that's not anything you should be doing.
That's not something like, I'm like, I get it that you like thought that was cute. However, I just think that like if you're in a place where you can't even like look at your ex without like
you shouldn't have
crying,
someone new.
You fully should not have someone new and had like 5 other people in between, you know?
Yeah.
Because clearly the person that you
really
need to look at is yourself, because at the end of the day, you are the person that's going to make you happy. And if you come to a relationship complete, you will meet someone that also is coming to the relationship complete, and you'll just complement each other opposed to just pulling each other down.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode of the Bossed Up Bible. I'm Tori.
And I'm Caitlin, and we are going to plug ourselves because that is what people do.
Yep. Tori212 Green. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
On Instagram, it's Caitlin, ITS, Kaitlen, and onlyfans.com/Caitlin. And you can also find us on YouTube, Bossed Up Bible. You can also find us on OnlyFans, onlyfans.com/thebossupbible. Thank you.
I'm a bitch, I'm a boss, I'm a bitch and a boss, I'm a shine like girls.